before I begin, I quote from an Indian High Commissioner who recently said the following. This is Raghavan, who was our High Commissioner till the end of 2015, I think. He said, I would hesitate in taking too negative a view of the present situation, bad as it is. And he adds on, in the end, it is the country of 200 million people. It has nuclear weapons. Its people have a fierce sense of their national identity. No external power, certainly not the USA, certainly not India, certainly not China, can solve their problem. It is something that they have to attempt to do on their own. It is for Pakistan to change their own system. An injection of external capital will not be enough. I also want to quote from what has been reported today in the newspapers, a statement by the Pakistani High Commissioner in India. The headline is, "Don't want to live in perpetual hostility with India." That Pakistan doesn't want to do it. So there are indications that although the situation seems to be very bad, there are things which we can do. But before we get into the more specific issues, let us remind ourselves that we are an ancient country, a young nation, also very much a nation of the young, but also one of the few civilizations in the world. There are hundreds of cultures in the world. There are very few civilizations, and we are one of the surviving civilizations. Two, that India is a civilization which exists and has existed far beyond India's physical and geographical limits. So there is an India which exists quite vibrantly, quite creatively, quite imaginatively outside India. Three, India is marked by indomitable, irrepressible plurality of religions and gods, of philosophy and languages, of customs, costumes, and cuisines. Nothing in India is singular, nor allowed to be singular for long. Everything has to be plural. And that's why in many European languages, the word for India is really Indias, West Indies. So it is Indies, not India. Indian traditions, numerous as they are, have existed in dialogue with each other, interactive, accommodative, tolerant, etc. Always open to new ideas, but maintaining a continuum. Now, vis-a-vis Pakistan, we must remember that it was part of India only a few decades ago. And the Pakistanis took part in freedom struggle from the colonial rule till 1947. We fought together. Two, it shares with India not only geography, rivers and climates, but also languages, religion, cuisine, etc. Unlike India, which survived all prophecies of further disintegration, it is Pakistan which got further divided, not on ground on which it was founded, but on the ground of language. If Pakistan has been suffering from religious bigotry, feeding terrorism of many kinds, India too has seen rise of religious intolerance, communal disharmony, and violence, caste-based atrocities. In spite of pouring into Kashmir trillions of rupees and other resources, we have not been able to provide them with development, security, normal life at all times. Since, unfortunately, both India and Pakistan are nuclear powers, any war between them could be massively self-destructive. What would be destroyed will be people who were one and the same for centuries and only parted company some 70 years ago. As neighbors which cannot possibly run away from each other, we have to willy-nilly find a way of living in peace with each other. Both countries cannot be equated, and mutual blame takes us nowhere. Their political systems, etc., vastly different. India is a democracy, and Pakistan has been a democracy off and on, always under threat of being superseded. Pakistan Army is an important political and diplomatic player in Pakistan. Indian Army does not, thankfully, play such a role in India. However, we must not fail to distinguish between state and the people, army and the state, politics and culture, religion and civilization, cries of war and desires for peace. All Indians who have visited Pakistan, and I have been there once only in Lahore, and we went to Anarkali, everybody goes there, and we wanted to buy a couple of kurtas to take home as souvenirs. And there were two Hindi writers and Indian writers, and there was one Pakistani writer who accompanied us, and we asked for the price, and he said 600 rupees. And this gentleman who was accompanying us said, "Oh, Hindustan se aaye hain." तो उनका नहीं साहब तो 400 रुपए. And we finally paid only 400. But what was more interesting was to come later. We were living in a hotel, and there was a small market around, and I had a 5-year-old grandson, so I wanted to buy a toy for him. So I went around and found a toy shop, and the toy shopkeeper was a bit talkative, perhaps as talkative as I am. And he sort of started asking कि साहब आप कहाँ से आए हैं, दिल्ली से, और वहाँ तो दिल्ली बहुत बदल गई होगी, मैं तो 25 बरस पहले गया था, वगैरह वगैरह. And he kept on sort of showing me the toys, and finally I chose a toy, and he started packing it, and I said कि how much do I pay? He said साहब सवाल ही पैदा नहीं होता. मैंने कहा क्यों भाई? बोले साहब आपका पोता मेरा पोता, आप इतनी दूर से आए हैं और मैं आपसे पैसे लूँगा. Now I dare say that when Pakistanis come to India, they perhaps don't meet that kind of helpfulness and generosity as with Pakistanis. Well, you can say that they have nostalgia and this, that, and the other, whatever, but the fact remains that they are very warm-hearted people. Now, let us look what has happened in the world of culture in Pakistan itself. One, some of the best poets and fiction writers in Urdu in the past 50 years happen to be from Pakistan. In fact, it can be said that Urdu literature has done much better in Pakistan than in India. Two, Indian music has a new genre of ghazal gaiki. Earlier on, we had ghazal gaiks, we had great ghazal gaik, Begum Akhtar and whatnot, but ghazal gaiki as a genre of music was never recognized, nor was it so popular as it became as to what the Pakistanis did to ghazal gaiki. Three, some of the most, I don't see television, neither Indian nor any other, but that's an old man's failing. But those who see it, and I have on the basis of the evidence of a major Hindi writer, Krishna Sopti, who says that the best serials are from Pakistan. And she says that they don't deal with all this, what we deal with. They deal with real social issues, and they seem so similar and familiar. Some of the outstanding new fiction writers in English, which have emerged in Pakistan, have first been published in India by Indian publishers. Many Pakistani painters have emerged. They have got international recognition, and they are part of the Indian art scene. There are many galleries who have been showing Pakistani artists for a long time. Many important Pakistani poets and intellectuals have sought refuge in India. You would recall Ejaz Ahmad or Fahmida Riaz. They all lived here during those periods when they were driven out by the Pakistani authorities. Nusrat Fateh Ali, Mehdi Hassan, Ghulam Ali, etc., are domestic names in the middle class lovers of music. I mean, who would not know these great singers? Now, Pakistani writers, artists, musicians, actors, and theatre men have been coming to India and performing to huge appreciative audiences, including some of their films. Because perhaps they don't produce all that many, perhaps the percentage of bad films in India would be much larger than perhaps in Pakistan, because we produce a very large number of bad films, but they produce less, and thereby their bad films are also perhaps less than ours. Most important Pakistani writers have been published in India. There is no writer of consequence, not only Faiz Ahmad Faiz or Intizar Hussain or the writers of the yesteryears. Most of them had been published here. And what we do not know, that many Hindi writers have also been published, and there have been special numbers of journals on Uday Prakash, for instance, and Kamleshwar, etc. Birth centenaries of some of the great Pakistani writers like Faiz, Saadat Hasan Manto, etc., have been organized in India on a very wide scale. If you take, I remember in Faiz centenary year, there were at least 20, 30, 40 important events taking place all over the country, from Calcutta to Allahabad to Lucknow, to Delhi, to Bombay, to Chandigarh, etc. And so it can be reasonably argued that whether diplomacy has supported it or promoted it, Indians and Pakistanis have never stopped having a cultural dialogue. The dialogue has been going on. It becomes difficult sometimes. It becomes invisible sometimes, perhaps inaudible once in a while. But I propose that the dialogue has never ceased, and that dialogue must never cease. Now, in most forms, musical expression and innovation, linguistic assertion, visual imagination, it could reveal how much similar we are and how much similar we remain in spite of everything. Two, at the intellectual level, exchange of intellectuals and academics, researchers, etc., could, apart from sharing valuable knowledge, indicate crucial similarities and significant differences. After all, we are also different because we are two nations. We have different histories, we have different politics, etc., different economies. Pakistan has been too dependent on foreign assistance. We are not. So there are differences there. So these differences must be acknowledged, because a dialogue is not really an exploration merely of similarities. It should also be an acknowledgement of significant differences. Then, through literary and artistic expression and exploration, after all, what do? We discover love, family, nature, relationships, death, absence, presence, violence, and all these are really revealed to you, manifest to you, impress upon you that how much humanity we share and we shape for ourselves in the long run. Although in the long run, Lord Keynes said famously, which was quoted by our ex-Prime Minister the other day, in the long run we are all dead. But in the long run, we must also remember we are all but human. And one of the jobs of culture is to demolish the dichotomy between us and them, and to make us realize that we are them and they are us. Whatever may be our differences. After all, we are not photocopies of each other, and we better not be. It is much better that we are different people. In a sense, we are in a deep psychological way at war with each other, unfortunately. You know, your cricket matches, the kind of emotions that they produce, and sometimes the vehemence, the aggressiveness, and the violence that one sees in expression, if not physically, at least in expression, could create an impression as if we are at war with each other. Whereas, can this be replaced by a notion that in spite of everything, we are at peace with each other? That in spite of everything, our differences, this, that, and the other, we can live peacefully without destroying or wanting to destroy the other. Actually, quite frankly, sometimes I think that the central problem in the world over is what to do with the others, whatever these others are. Your ideological others, your religious others, your linguistic others, your national others, your religious others, your communal others, what to do with others. And most of the time, because we don't know how to cope with the others, we tend to demolish them. All wars take place by way of an attempt to demolish the other. Now, can the paradigm be changed? Culture suggests that paradigm, that you need not destroy the other. You own the other as the other. In fact, at the moment in India, there seems to be a nationwide campaign at othering our own people. You know, there's a massive campaign that to create others, your religious others, your communal others, your caste others, whatever others they are. And vis-a-vis that, or against that, faced with that, culture can teach you that the others can be accommodated. In fact, your own Indian tradition would tell you that others have always been accommodated. They have been heard. You could not, in the Indian tradition, propose an idea without first telling honestly what were the views on this before and how is it that you are being differing. And there used to be an open social dialogue before an idea got accepted. And there is no single idea which defines Indian tradition. There is no single vision which defines Indian people. There is no, and thank God that there isn't. We have survived by our plurality, both our vision, style, and everything. Sometimes I believe that the idea of creating Pakistan as the other is equally dangerous. Because, yes, Pakistan is a different country, but to treat it in this sense as the other, which has to be somehow either destroyed or demolished or damaged or misplaced, whatever. Now, I am aware that even if India takes any cultural initiatives, Pakistan may not respond enthusiastically at the state level. But I'm quite sure that the Pakistani people who are different from the Pakistani state, who are different from the Pakistani army, will respond, have been responding. One. Two, Indian policymakers, occupied as they are with short-term measures and gains, may not make a genuine effort in this direction. I am not aware whether any efforts are being made. Sometimes we hear track 2 or track 3 parlays, but I'm not aware if they're going anywhere, whether culture is playing any big role. In fact, some bigoted sections on both sides may actively oppose such an initiative if an initiative of that kind is taken on a big scale. But India, being the larger and perhaps democratically more mature country, should take the initiative with a long term perspective and sustain it through difficulties without taking a big brotherly instance which could be self defeating. You see, we are not going to save Pakistan. That's not our business. That's not our duty either. And as our own High Commissioner has said, whom I quoted, Pakistan has to save itself. So let us not try to be the savior. We can only be comrades in arms. And in this case, the comrade in arms will not carry arms, but it will carry poetry and it will carry paintings, it will carry music, etc. Then, if India as a civilization must save itself from being caught in perennial hatred, perpetual warmongering, and halted in its march towards egalitarian society by terrorist attack and such other interminable provocation, both from within India and from Pakistan. Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia once said, there are duties of despair. Just as there are possibilities of hope, there are duties of despair. And I think this may be one of the duties of despair, to keep our hope alive in culture, if not in politics. Because you have to make a distinction, howsoever oppressive the political scene may be, and you know the history of many tyrannies, both Soviet and Nazi and whatever others, that culture has survived all the onslaught, all the erosions, all the interventions made by politics. Let us also remind ourselves that we cannot be obsessed with Pakistan, even though it seems or it is made to appear that Pakistan is obsessed with India. Be that as it may, we as a larger nation need not be obsessed with Pakistan. Now you could say, all this seems very fine, but very dreamy, almost verging on the impossible. Well, my dear friends, you have invited a poet to speak to you and to suffer him for a few minutes here. And poets can only dream of the impossible. But the poets also believe that the impossible will become possible only if it has been dreamt. Nothing can be true or real which has not been dreamt before. In fact, as W. Waite said famously, in dreams begin our responsibilities. I believe that our responsibility in the matter, fraught as it is with several on the way failures and disappointments, fraught as it is being misinterpreted by powers that be, by several other kinds of forces which are operative in Indian society. But we must not give up hope. We must not give up the fact that people ultimately should live at peace with each other. And we are not people in an abstract manner. We are the same people until 70 years ago we parted company. In spite of a very fierce sense of nationalism that Pakistan has, and our sense of nationalism is also getting fiercer and more macabre in many ways. But whatever may be those elements, you have to keep this flame, howsoever small it may be, this candle of hope burning. Otherwise, as Faiz Ahmad Faiz famously said, क्या मुकाम राह में मुकाम फैज़ कोई राह में जचा ही नहीं जो कुएं यार से निकले तो सुएदार चले. Now we are still lost in perhaps in kuye yar, but we have not yet gone over to Suyedar. So let us hope we will never go there. We will find the home of love and hope here and there. Thank you.